folks. Welcome to Our City Matters. And of course, today we have another special guest. We have Jane Cormier with us, who is the director of New Hampshire Right to Life. And we'll also be showing a video that she spoke at the 603 Alliance a few weeks ago, and it was excellent. And it's a message that I think all of us would like to hear. So welcome, Jane.
Thank you very much.
To Our City Matters.
Happy to be here.
So I think we can go probably right to the video.
Fabulous.
Because there's a lot you said there that is just wonderful. And so, okay, John, we'll do the video, and then we'll come back to Jane.
Our next speaker, you know, one of the things about speakers that we've had here today is they're multifaceted. Probably the thing I'm most impressed with about Jane Cormier is that she's an opera singer. How many of us can lay claim that we can sing opera? But she's also a former state representative. When I think of her, I think of the term firebrand. She's a Tea Party activist, and her newest role is the president of New Hampshire Right to Life, and I'm so pleased that she's come today to speak to us about that part of our Republican platform and that part that is so many of us have near and dear to our heart. Jane.
Wonderful to be here. Friendly faces here. This is a friendly crowd. I don't always have that gift. I appreciate it when I do get it. So we're here to talk today about liberty. And I think I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but we all know that liberty and life are inexorably connected. And when we start to disconnect that, we get into trouble. We start to lose what it is to be American, what our founders believed it meant to be American. So now that I'm not in the political realm anymore, I'm in the life, sponsoring the message of life world. I really, everywhere I go, I think it's so very important to tell people that the message is something that we should not be frightened of. That the message is so connected to liberty that if we go out there and we lay claim to that message, we can win this debate. I can't tell you how many times I hear from politicians and from others, well, personally, I'm pro-life, but professionally, I'm pro-choice. Now, I don't know what's worse about that statement, the fact that their pro-life stance is so weak that they can't follow through with it, or the fact that the principles are so skewed, their conservative principles are so skewed that they fall away under the littlest pressure. Just this weekend here in New Hampshire, a prominent conservative politician and I had this very same debate. It leaves me breathless. If you cannot understand the basic human right to life, the right to live, how can you possibly stand by a principled message toward conservatism? Now, I know that many they don't really like this message, and I know that especially in the political world, there's the message, don't talk about the social issues, right? Let's not go there, because we can all get together on the issues that matter, like, funding or finance, whatever you're talking about, because it's an easier issue, right? But I can't tell you how much I disagree with that stance, and here's why. When we hide or diminish our support for life, we not only take away the opportunity to open the debate, but we tacitly agree with the left in their pro-abortion stance. We should not be doing that. While some would ask us to leave the social issue of life alone in the political sphere, I think we do great damage to this debate when we allow that to happen. We don't have to take this debate up in a nasty, really ugly way. Who doesn't want to support life? Who doesn't want to support life? This is a message that is growing. We are finding in New Hampshire Right to Life many youth groups all over the country, not just in New Hampshire, that are growing in colleges, young groups, young voters that are now coming to understand what the life message is all about. So, to me, here's what I've learned in 7 months of being with Right to Life, New Hampshire Right to Life. This was a new gig for me. Right, I came on, I had a big learning curve, I had a lot of research, I had to talk to a lot of people. I talk a lot. But, you know, I've learned that political parties and political entities, right, they play to win. We all like the big fat W, don't you? I mean, you've all seen this, right? But let's take that one step further. If we are a moral country, Christian country, our goal is not to win. We are not called by God to win. Because guess what? He's going to determine who wins or loses ultimately. We are called to stand. To stand. And that is something that every single person in this room can do. We cannot lose if we individually take up the banner to stand. So it's ours. That win is out there, and be careful about the win, because sometimes you win something you never counted on. When you play for the W, you sometimes play for something that maybe when you really look at it, at the essence of it, maybe that's not what you really wanted in the first place. We can all stand. That means that this life debate can be an individual mandate, and it's something that none of us should step back from. We're called to stand. And we can win. So, we're going to stand by our convictions, we're going to stand by the right to life, and I want you to know it's gaining traction all over the country. We have presidential candidates that now are coming out in forthright support of what it means to support life. Young people groups, they're growing all over the place. Nothing is more important to support this message. New Hampshire Right to Life believes that every single person is important. Because life is no longer just about the baby in the womb. It's about valuing our elderly and the infirmed. It's about standing against the creation of life only to kill it for supposed scientific reasons or for selective breeding. We could go on and on. But we are at the crossroads of deciding which way our country will travel. Will we take the principled road, or will we take the politically correct road? It cannot be denied that when we devalue one spectrum of life, we devalue all life. And this is not what was intended by the formation of this great country. When our founders spoke of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it all begins with life. So next month, New Hampshire Right to Life is going to be taking up a new initiative called CHAMP, Changing Hearts and Minds Project. And we're going on the road, and we're going to talk, and we're going to engage in a smile, engage with a positive message, because we believe this message is ours to win. Let's make it clear. Every baby is important. There is no moral difference between aborting a first trimester baby or a third trimester baby. Baby with a soul, spirit, talents, and possibilities. Our job is to develop the skills to manage the abortion lobby's manipulation of the language and to expose the deceptions to the public that is the truth. The truth. Tell the truth of abortion. While pro-abortionists attempt to make their cause sound reasonable, we need to make sure that the public understands what the true meaning is behind those words. We will no longer sit and watch politicians straddle the pro-choice fence. We will work tirelessly at New Hampshire Right to Life to inform our voters and hold our public officials accountable for their voting. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I thank God every day that I live in the state of New Hampshire. And I thank God every day that there are wonderful people like you that are ready to stand up for liberty, for life, for what our founders believed. Thank you.
Okay, well that's pretty powerful message you gave there, Jane.
Thank you.
I appreciated that. I was attending the 603 Alliance, and I'm glad I did.
Oh,
I got to see that.
well, thank you.
So what do you say about your presentation, basically?
I think that the messaging for me of that kind of presentation is to bring a different look and a different hope to the life message, because we've been weighted down by verbiage that has not served getting that message out to the mainstream, mainstream public. And we have to do it by engaging in talking about what the essence of life is all about, that it's, this life message is no longer just about one portion of life, pregnancy, for instance. It's now gaining traction to make the value judgment of life across the spectrum. And I say that slippery slope we need to be very careful with that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be talking a lot about the full spectrum of life encapsulated in personhood, in the idea of personhood for New Hampshire Right to Life. And I just believe that with all my heart that it's logical, and there's common sense, and there's history that supports the value of life in this country. And we shouldn't be afraid or hesitant to take up that message.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll talk more about those details. But you did mention your program called CHAMP?
Yes. CHAMP is an initiative called Changing Hearts and Minds Project. So we call it CHAMP. And my thought when I started at NHRTL was we needed to come up with an initiative that would start to combine all the different groups and communities that want to support life here in New Hampshire. So there's a 3-tiered program that I've come up with CHAMP. And the first tier is this year. And it's basically going out into our communities and asking these groups, these organizations, these churches, what their thoughts about life in their community is all about. What do they see as needs? What do they see as possibilities or messaging? And to put that down so that we can start to assist them, so that New Hampshire Right to Life can start to assist those communities. They're living in those communities, these folk. They know what's best. They know what's going on the grassroots and the ground level of everything. And so if we can, put down and what's the word I want? Document, so to speak, all the communities that we can within New Hampshire. The second tier will be to tie them together on a county level so that we can actually have a vessel in New Hampshire Right to Life that will reach out throughout the state, through community and county, and bring this message, similar to the one that you just heard, out into our public, out into our communities. Mm-hmm. We don't care if it's small. We don't care if it's 5 people or if it's 50 people. We care that we're talking about this upbeat message of life, the common sense, version of what this debate is all about. And CHAMP is the vessel through which we can get that debate going. The third tier of CHAMP is to, in the third year, is to hopefully have CHAMP of New England, mm-hmm. so that we can take the template. If this works out, that we're able to put these communities together in some sort of a framework and actually use it to engage the communities here in New Hampshire, that we can do the same for New England, and we can go to Maine and Vermont and Massachusetts and work in New England in the same way from that template.
Are you talking about mitigating risks to life, in those spectrums that you're talking about that are at risk, perhaps? Are you talking about bringing together people to help mitigate those risks, like maybe crisis centers for...
The crisis center information, we have some really wonderful groups that are working on that here in New Hampshire. And by the way, you can have comprehensive information on those clinics and groups that work, for instance, crisis pregnancies at nhrtl.org, right? I think that that's kind of deep for what CHAMP is about. CHAMP is a messaging campaign, so to speak. The legislative end, if you're talking about the legislation end of it, or the more detailed would be handled by New Hampshire Right to Life in a different kind of campaign. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Are you advocating for the unborn? Obviously, you're advocating for
those most vulnerable in our communities.
Okay.
Because that doesn't just mean the unborn.
No.
That can be the infirmed. That can be the elderly. You know, it's a spectrum now, and folks do not know about this, Deb, because the left has held the messaging so long that pro-choice, they've knocked us over the head with pro-choice and the woman's right to choose, that we now think that that's all there is to the discussion. We don't discuss the fact that there are two people involved with that choice at the very least. That's if you don't include the father, right? There's the mother, and there's a distinct life form that has its own DNA, its own possibilities. We don't talk about the second person. We talk about everything with life, you know, in the past, in the pregnancy area, only as the mom's choice. Who advocates for that baby? That baby has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, so we're trying to open this dialogue so that it's not all stuck in one corner, because we believe that when you do open this up, the logic of it and the common sense and the humanity of it speaks for itself. People will come to accept this message. The left has held the messaging on this far too long, and we're trying to open that message up.
To preserve life
Absolutely.
at conception, but also at the end of life,
Through natural death.
and with the disabled.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody's at risk to being snuffed out.
Absolutely. That's the slippery slope that people don't think about, because they've been, if they're believing that life is only about, you know, a woman's right to choose, right? They miss that whole spectrum.
Well, we have euthanasia in other
Yeah,
states.
Sure we do. We have pushes for euthanasia all over this country. And, you know, that sounds well until you start thinking about who's going to be choosing, who makes the decisions about who's going to live and die under that.
And the inferences that are made by the doctors or the healthcare providers of any sort.
Of course.
Even the VA, I know, has some information out that, hey, you don't have a right to have life or life-saving
Right.
procedures at, you know, unlimited.
Sure.
So what does that say?
Well, what they're trying to do is subliminally, and this is what the left has done. This is what we need to fight against with a smile. I'm saying never with, you know, ugly words or meanness of spirit, with logic and with a smile. They subliminally have captured the message without coming out and saying you would be a whole lot less of a burden to your family and to society and the taxpayer if you just took a pill and went to sleep. Well, isn't that nice? You know, that has never been what we have been about. Life is central to liberty. Liberty means nothing without life, and we need to advocate for those that, you know, would perhaps, under depression, for instance, think that they want to end their life when it could be a medical reason why they're depressed enough to think that way. We don't just have a cutoff. It should not be that way, and we have to talk about that.
It's a big message.
It is.
So you're going around as you're invited.
Yeah, we have 7, I believe, different groups just in May. We're going to be, you know, doing it all summer if we can. If any group out there would like to have us come and visit, basically I give a very short presentation and we talk. What do your community needs are? How do you think life could be enhanced, the messaging? What do you want? How can NHRTL help you?
In your community.
In your community.
Okay, so they can contact you
At nhrtl.org. Our information's on there. Our email address is on there. You can contact me through that. You can contact. I'll get all of the information if anybody wants.
So if they want to have you into their church.
And this is free.
Okay.
There is no charge for any of this. This is all about just having a different kind of discussion.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to get into some legislation that's up at the State House.
Very important legislation this week. This Thursday, we have a ton of important education bills coming up, and we also have a couple of very important life bills coming up. And I would ask anybody that's listening, if you're pro-life, we need you to call your senators and contact them to support the life bills coming through the Senate this week. One of them is the repeal bill for the New Hampshire buffer zone law that was put into
right.
effect last year. That's HB 403. And this basically strikes the law down. Last summer, July 2014, the United States Supreme Court found the Massachusetts buffer zone law unconstitutional. Those that say that our buffer law is different are not representing this truthfully. The only difference between the bills is really technically about 10 feet. One was 35 feet, buffer zone law, one is 25 feet. Very little difference between the bills. So as soon as Governor Hassan signed this bill quickly into law, haphazardly I might say, because we knew that the Supreme Court was soon to rule on this. We asked the legislature, please wait. We know that the Supreme Court's coming out with a ruling shortly. It was rushed through. She signed the bill, and of course, now immediately somebody signed up to sue New Hampshire because this law is unconstitutional. The court has said this law will not, or nobody's enforcing the law here in New Hampshire because it is being discussed in the Senate or the New Hampshire legislature now. But the bill, if it's supported, will get this law off the books, and it will save taxpayers millions of dollars. It's important to know that 1.2 million tax dollars in Massachusetts went to just pay the plaintiff fees.
Oh.
That did not even pay for the state fees in putting that bill through the court
So we have
system.
to get it off the books so it can't be acted upon in the courts.
Absolutely. It's an unconstitutional bill. Get it off the books. So it's a fiscally sound bill, in addition to supporting First Amendment rights. The second bill is HB. There's actually two bills that are under discussion, but next Thursday, HB 560 will come up before the Senate. And this bill is a fetal homicide bill. It has very specific language in it that in this fetal homicide bill, abortion is exempted. Actions by the mother are exempted. For instance, if there's a mother that has a drug issue and there's an issue with the baby, that's exempted in easy speak terms, okay, in HB 560. HB 560 says any baby 8 weeks or older that is killed during a criminal activity, a criminal act, a car accident where someone is, a drunken driver, or a boyfriend that beats up a girlfriend, or something that happens to that baby that is a criminal activity, that there can now be a legal standing for this baby so that the parents can go forth and have justice through the court system. Okay? This doesn't talk about personhood. This, in my mind, isn't even an abortion issue because abortion is exempted clearly in 5 words within the bill. It is a bill that allows a family that has a baby that has been lost, that has been horrifically killed, a way to achieve justice. Can you imagine losing a 7-month baby in a car accident with a criminal activity, let's say a drunk driver or a driver that's high, and being told that you cannot sue? You cannot find any legal justice for that perpetrator because on New Hampshire law books, that baby has no legal entity. 38 other states have fetal homicide laws, and it's time for New Hampshire to join those 38 states. And this bill is fair. This is a fair bill, and very short bill. Not a lot of speak in there, like 1.5 pages, very clear. There is some political backdoor stuff going on where the Senate is talking about not supporting HB 560, so we really need the folks to call their senators. And if you don't know who your senator is, you can go to NHGEN Court, NewHampshireGenCourt.com or .org, and on there you can find Senate roster. You just click that and you'll get all the senators' email information and phone calls. You can call your senator and tell them you want them to support HB 560 and HB 403.
Okay. Did you have a Senate bill as well?
The Senate bill, SB 40, is similar to SB 560. There are 2 fetal homicide bills. It's very interesting. The House has passed this twice now. Last session, when I was a sitting rep, we fought for a fetal homicide bill, and it got killed in the House. This session, the House has passed it not once but twice. That's how common sense this bill is. And so SB 40 was the Senate version of the bill, but the original bill had some really terrible language in it. It contained a sentence that said, sustained extrauterine survival. Those 3 words make a legal barrier that is impossible to get over in the court system. So let's say that you have a child that died, you go to court to prosecute under this SB 40, the unamended version unamended version, you would have to sit there and go through hours and hours of debate and questioning of whether or not your baby sustained extrauterine survival. There's no viability number here. This is such poor language. It's better to not have a bill at all. That's how bad SB 40 unamended. That bill went to the House last week, or the week before last, and the House amended SB 40 to match HB 560. So both bills right now are good fetal homicide bills. And, I'm hearing, unfortunately, that the Senate is not thrilled that New Hampshire House amended their version of the bill. So I say, you know what, why don't we get rid of the political, hijinks? Let's stop playing partisan or silly politics, and let's start putting on good laws on the books that will save these families that currently have no recourse under law. How do you have closure? How do you have closure when you have a state saying your baby didn't exist? That's terrible. That is just unconscionable. So contact your senator.
Okay, so that's important. Today is the 11th of May, so Thursday is...
It's the 14th.
14th,
May
okay.
14th, correct.
All right.
Yep.
And you can anytime tell your senator, hey, I'm standing for life. My community is standing for life. And I'm not standing alone. I have others with me. And like you said in your video, this is a way for people to stand.
Absolutely. You know what's so important to understand here? The overreaching message is so many people are overwhelmed. There's so much wrong happening today, and everybody knows it. It's sort of like, where do you choose? What can you do? You're overwhelmed, and it's, I think, that's kind of what the left has tried to do, right? Because you're ineffective when you're overwhelmed,
Right.
correct? So I say let's fight back by not doing anything big. Make the phone call.
Right.
Make the email. Jot the note down. It'll take you 5 seconds to do it. But how big and important it is, because the senators and the House of Representatives, they do notice when you contact them. It does make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have your pastors also contact.
Absolutely.
And all the church members or anybody in the community who stands for life. And we hope everyone will stand for life.
Right.
At this point.
Well, especially these bills, because these are not even, these bills are so much bigger even than the topic.
So it could be your life one day. All right, so we're wrapping up, so we can send folks to your website.
Right, nhrtl.org.
Right to Life.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a beautiful website.
And
lots
so much
of info. Yeah.
All right, then they can contact you for any more info. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in, folks, and hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time on Our City Matters.